Hello, BookTube. I almost want to start off with a standard BookTube apology for wearing the same clothes in two different videos. People always start off by saying that and say, I don't want you to think I wear the same clothes all the time. I'm just filming a lot of videos at once. Of course, you could tell that I'm not filming a lot of videos at once because I'm surrounded by brilliant sunlight. The sun has come up. But I often feel ambivalent about those apologies anyway because quite often, sitting up in bed or on the couch, I read for such enormous strengths of time that I am kind of wearing the same clothes for longer than is probably socially acceptable. Don't judge me. I make no apologies. uh, uh, but I have a tag for you. And even though it's, the middle of the week, and I'm hoping that I do a better job with this tag than I did with my video for Nonfiction November, where half the books I talked about weren't nonfiction. You would think that I might take the easy way out and say I was really tired. I'm being run ragged by this little puppy, etc., etc., or even that I was distracted by the challenges and concentrated on them rather than on the type of book. But upon reflection, I've decided that the villain here, the thing that was the problem, was the made-up stories. They were in the equation at all. So maybe I'll avoid them for the month of November. Except if I'm being paid not to. Maybe I'll avoid the made-up stories for the whole month, just as a palate cleanser. But I have a tag that I was just tagged on for Sean the Book Maniac, who did... it's the Superstitious Book Tag, which was originally created by My Reading is Odd. And he filmed his version of the tag outside. And it was a bright, beautiful day. And then at one point in his video, he dissed the Essex Serpent, which is completely against the rules for BookTube. And although he didn't appear to notice it in the video, if you watch the video, you'll see that right after he dissed the Essex Serpent, the natural world began to rebel against him. Birds started to swoop and caw and poop on him. It's well known, it's been well documented all over the world with camcorders and whatnot, that if you diss the Essex Serpent, this will happen to you. So let that be a lesson to him. But it's the Superstitious Book Tag, and it revolves around a handful of common superstitions. And I thought we'd just do it. It sounded like fun. And the first one is Friday the 13th. What book have you been unlucky to read? And it's not really, well, I guess there is an element of bad luck involved. The reality is that of the avalanche of new releases that come out, I feel so compelled these days to keep abreast of that avalanche, to know it, to have a firm handle on it. Can't read everything, of course. You can't read everything. No one can read everything. But I'm so firmly obsessed with the idea of keeping my hand in the current of that gush of books, that if a major publishing house puts out a major book that's not, business, self-help, motivation, that sort of thing, a cookbook, then I feel compelled to read it. And that means that I am often put in the path of books whose type or whose theme is familiar to me and awful. And I can't not read them. So I guess that counts as being unlucky. They come my way, and it's sort of a duty. I will write about a lot of them, but I want to know what's going on in any case in them. And the book I have in question here is something we've seen on this channel before, I think, and it definitely qualifies. It's a kind of book that shows up at least once in every publishing season, and it's as unlucky gets. It's just, they're infuriating, and I know they're going to be ahead of time. It's The Strategy of Victory by Thomas Fleming, and the subtitle is How General George Washington Won the American Revolution. And that subtitle has a one-word rejoinder, and that one word is accidentally. But I can't ignore the book because it's written by Thomas Fleming, who's a fantastic historian, and because it's from the folks at Da Capo Press, and I love them, and they are very kind to send me almost the whole of their new release list. And it's colonial military history. All these things conspire to make it so that I can't avoid reading it. So I did read it, and it was awful. It was just awful. Washington is given credit for all kinds of things that never even crossed his mind, much less were a part of his objective. The primary documents are quoted all over the book from Washington's aides and generals that, if looked at dispassionately, clearly prove the man didn't know what he was doing, and that it was random chance that led him to any kind of victory. And he had any kind of victory, very, very seldom. It almost never happened. So the strategy of victory, how George Washington won the American Revolution, is definitely the kind of book I read that I am unlucky to read. I'm not looking gift horse in the mouth. I'm very lucky to get it. And I'm very lucky to be on such friendly terms with the whole superstructure. But it would do my artificial rhesus monkey heart good to every once in a while see a book that took the opposite tack. I don't think I've read one in probably 40 years that called Washington to account in a way that biographers and military historians routinely do to every single other person in the world. So anyway, that's a Friday the 13th book, definitely, because when they come along, I have to read them, and I know already they're going to frustrate the heck out of me. Question number 2, prompt number 2 is rabbit's feet bring good luck. What new release are you hopping excited to read? And I have one. I've shown it on this channel before. It's this, The New Negro. A big fat biography of Alan Locke, the very first soup to nuts biography of a revered professor, the first Black Rhodes Scholar, and the grandfather of the Harlem Renaissance. So you don't know. I have held off on reading it. I'm so excited, but I'm going to wait until the new year to read it. And you never know. It's a great subject, and we're right at the perimeter of the time when it would be a completely dead subject, when everyone living who's connected with it would be gone. So it's a great time to write the book, but much will depend on the biographer. If they do a bad or boring or dutiful or worse lecture-y job, then I'll be disappointed, and we'll have to wait for the next Alan Locke biography. We'll see. Question number 3. A cricket in your house brings good luck. What book villain would you never want in your house? I smile a little at Sean the Book Maniac's answer to this, because he expresses a lack of patience with one-dimensional black and white villains. And at first I thought, oh yeah, well, this is BookTube. We're all very sophisticated readers. Of course, nobody wants a one-dimensional black and white villain. Then I remembered, oh wait, I do. I like black and white one-dimensional villains and black and white one-dimensional heroes as well. This whole business of shades of gray and whatnot in the made-up stories. But in this tag, I am largely staying away from the made-up stories. And I have a candidate in mind who's on my mind because I just read a brick of a book about him. And the villain I wouldn't want in this house is not due to his villainy. It's Joseph Stalin. This is Stephen Kotkin's, the second volume in Stephen Kotkin's multi-volume biography of Stalin. And this one is even better than the first one, and reinforces what a multifaceted and just bottomless psychopath this person was. Just the worst thing in the world, that random chance put this psychopath at the head of a nation of millions and millions of people, instead of just being the village blacksmith, or worse, the village butcher, where everybody in the village says, well, yeah, okay, our butcher likes butchering a little more than he probably should, but he does a good job, and he's a familiar face in the village, never leaves the village, isn't going to get married, no one's actually going to put their daughter in his house, but every village has somebody like that. If that would have been a way for this stupefying evil to be localized. Instead, the worst possible thing in the world happened, and this stupefying evil ruled the country and killed millions and millions and millions of people intentionally, for no other reason than to kill them. But that isn't the reason I wouldn't want him in the house. The reason I wouldn't want him in the house is underscored peripherally in this book. It's not Kotkin's emphasis by any means. And that is that he was vile physically. Never bathed and just reeked to high heaven. I wouldn't. I have enough bad smells in this house. I wouldn't want to add that to the mix. Let's see here. 4 is step on a crack, break your mother's back. Show us your most battered book. And I have a few candidates, but one has outpassed all the others in the last month. It's a book we've seen on this channel before. It's Nalini Singh's Archangels Viper, her new supernatural thriller bad boy romance. And I got an advanced copy, and I also got a finished copy. And when I got the finished copy, I put the advanced copy on a pile of books on the floor to donate, and it was discovered. And Frida has been slowly making her way through it. Slowly but surely, she's been making her way through it. She is consuming Archangel's Viper. So every once in a while, when she gets back to it, she will thrash it to pieces, and the floor will be covered in a little snowfall of printed page confetti. And I'm just going to leave it because she seems to be enjoying it. But that's definitely the one. Let's see here. Question number 5. Garlic protects from vampires. What book are you scared to read? I sit on the other side of the fence of this equation. I am the judge of books. I am the jury, and in some cases, with a great deal of relish, I am the executioner. I'm not afraid to read any book. As I've said on this channel before, if I'm doing my job right, they're afraid of me. Question number 6. Breaking a mirror brings 7 years of bad luck. What book could you read for 7 years? And I thought about this a lot. Of course, the questions like this, they always sound good on paper, but it would be torture no matter what the book was if it was really true. But in terms of a book that is pretty nearly inexhaustible, I have one in mind. It's the ultimate hard sell for BookTube, so I'm not actually pushing it on you. It's this. It's City of God by St. Augustine, the Civitas Dei. And this is the Penguin Classic. It's a huge book in which Augustine tries with the force of his own brain and the huge amount of reading that he had done in the world to construct a completely working moral cosmology. In every detail, taking everything into account and buttressing it in history and literature and martyrology. And it's just, it's of course, it doesn't bear any relationship to reality. Augustine thought he was mapping reality, but the fascination with it that I think would probably last for 7 years. God knows I've been rereading the thing for a lot longer than 7 years. The fascination that would probably last for me would be the fascination of seeing this mind at work, constantly second-guessing himself, constantly cutting off his own raised objections to his own points. It's once you get into it, it's just fascinating. It's just a fascinating experience. I really wish that I had a big one-volume, single volume in the Latin. The Loeb Classical Library is doing the Civitas Dei, but it's a whole slew of little those cute little hardcovers of theirs, and that's not quite the same thing. That breaks the spell when you want to be immersed in a book. And this book is big enough so that I can actually immerse myself in it. But I'll take the Penguin, absolutely. Oh, I should probably say who this is. This is translated by Henry Bettinson. If I don't recommend it, I don't know how far you'd get in it if the subject interests you, and of course it doesn't. I don't even know if the Penguin City of God is still in print, and I don't know if anybody else makes it. But it definitely heads a short list of books that I would be happy to spend almost continuous company with for 7 years. Question number 7. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. What book has the best description of food? And it's the only one here that I can't show you. I don't have a copy because every time I get a copy, I give it away. It's The Art of Eating, which is a gorgeous, in the United States, it's a gorgeous, fat, one-volume trade paperback collection of all the little books of MFK Fisher, who's a marvelous writer about food. Just marvelous. Of course, I got a kick out of Sean's video. He says at a couple of points in his video that he's not a foodie. And then at one point he describes some culinary concoction that he thought up and then tried in the kitchen and then tweaked a little more. That is a foodie. That is a foodie. Sometimes when I'm on the sidewalk and I see a package of food that's opened on the ground, I will stoop down to see if it's anything of interest. If you can make a gourmet dish and then tweak it until it's perfection, you're a foodie. But so of course I don't read descriptions of food with anything like the connection that most humans have. But MFK Fisher is such a gorgeous writer. Oh, Her prose is so wonderful. She and Elizabeth David and Julia Child, they're this trinity of food writers, but surpasses the other two immeasurably. And I would love to find a copy of The Art of Eating, that big trade paperback. Next time one shows up at the Brattle, I'll gladly get it, because her books are in that category of books that I go back and reread. So they're books I want to own. But even if I do that, the next time I meet a foodie, or the next time one of you says you really, really love reading about food, I'll mail it to you, and then I won't have a copy anymore. But anyway, that is the Superstitious Book Tag. With the sun up, with the day has dawned, the day has come. So all that's left for me to do is tag people, and I tag a whole bunch of people. I tag Curtis from Curtis Books and Films. I think he owes me 5 or 6 or 7 tags now. I tag Lukash, and would love to hear about superstition. I tag Jess at Garden Scriptorium, who looks like she's slowly but surely making little returns to BookTube. That's good. We need her. I tag Peg, of course, if she isn't tagged already. If she didn't consider herself tagged. Sean the Book Maniac didn't tag anyone except me. And for me, I guess he is going to tag me in perpetuity for everything, for all tags. And I think you should all do that. I tag Olive at A Book Olive. And because this is in large part a tag about bad luck, I suppose it's only right that I tag Nathan James as well, isn't it? I'm going to go for now, but I'll see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.